You're just like, I can't believe someone has to live like this. This is terrible. Ugh. I have a couple simple rules that I follow as a manager. I think the most important one is I try to treat everyone the same. Whether or not they're the janitor or the CEO, you give everyone respect. Because in the end, they're a person and they deserve your respect. They're not defined by their job. I think the boss from this week's movie could learn a lesson from that. We're going to be talking about the assistant on the Everyman Movie Review. I am super stoked about all the new stuff that's coming out on streaming, so we got a lot of new movies to talk about. We're going to keep up our pace, 2 episodes per week, every Thursday and 1 day in between, and of course, always the same structure. Talk a little bit about the people who made the movie, talk a little bit about the movie, and then at the end I'll give you my recommendation on whether it's worth your time. So it's really hard to hate a character that you never see, but I really hate the boss from The Assistant. And I don't know if it's just because he is clearly based on Harvey Weinstein, or because of all the things he does, or the things he says, or the way he treats people, or the way he makes them treat him, or maybe it's all of it, I don't know. But I like to say I wouldn't work for somebody like that, but then again, who knows? When you're in a situation where you need a job, maybe you would. But before I get too far into the movie, let's get through the pleasantry, shall we? The Assistant was written and directed by Kitty Green. It's starring Julia Garner as Jane, and you probably know Julia from Ozarks, and oh boy, is this a much different character than you're used to seeing her as. John Orsini and Rory Coles play the other assistants in the office, and there is a great supporting cast full of people who just kind of come in and out as office personnel. But maybe most notably, Mackenzie Lee as Ruby. She plays a bit of a stronger role as we go along. So The Assistant is essentially a day in the life of an assistant to a powerful executive in some sort of entertainment business. We get the feeling that it's likely a movie, some sort of movie studio or movie production house, or a production house that makes movie and TV. And there are a couple of movie stars who come through, and we only really see them in passing. They're not really characters, so to speak. But this is kind of like an awful behind the scenes of what it's like for these assistants and what they have to go through. We start our day with Jane very early in the morning when she's traveling from her very small apartment into the city, New York City, in order to start her working day for the boss, who we don't ever really see. He's just the boss. We hear his voice. We kind of see him in passing, but we never actually see a conversation between them. Jane begins her very early day by cleaning up the shenanigans around the boss's office that happened over the weekend, including finding an earring and cleaning up a couch. Then she goes about making breakfast, or having breakfast, and getting everything ready for the office in the morning. And honestly, The Assistant is a super slow-paced movie. We're just kind of following her through the day, and we're seeing the kinds of things that people in this industry I want to be a part of, the entertainment industry, just how terrible everything kind of is, especially for those who are assistants. They are getting yelled at constantly for things that are not their fault. They're getting tasked with doing stuff that is basically impossible. Like, the boss doesn't want to talk to his wife, and none of the other assistants want to talk to his wife. So because she's a woman, she gets tasked with talking to his wife and lying to his wife about where he is and what he's doing, because in reality, he's at a hotel doing a read with an actress. And just, listen, I have been a boss before, I've had an assistant before, and some of the things that they show her doing, I cannot even imagine making someone do. Like, refilm my prescription for dick shots, and then cleaning up the after mess that's left and restocking me. Like, again, my policy is generally to treat everyone like a person. And in a structure of a company, there are people who have to do certain things and there are people who do other things. The CEO has tasks. I mean, in my current position, I have tasks, and there are people who work under me that have tasks. And I'm going to tell someone that they have to go mop a floor because that's their job. But I'm certainly not going to, pee on the floor first just to have them go clean it up. And it seems a lot like that's what the boss does. It's being mean just for the sake of being mean. And I know that this is not Harvey Weinstein. It's meant to be a generic boss who is kind of like Harvey Weinstein in the way that every executive in this industry is kind of like Harvey Weinstein in one way or another. Or can have the ability to become that. Like, powerful people just can start to take on some aspects of personality that are not fantastic. And I hope that the people I keep around me will keep me grounded enough that I don't do that. All through the morning, she is basically just tasked with some of the most nonsensical stuff. And while she's trying to do her actual job, plan travel for this guy and get him to the right place for the right meetings, to do the right things, he's just doing whatever he wants. She has to deal with the woman whose earring was left over the weekend. She comes to claim it and she gives it to her. And then this girl shows up who the boss met at some film festival out west and then flew her to New York to give her a job as an assistant, meaning she sits at a desk and doesn't have to do anything because the boss wants to have her around. And he puts her up in a hotel nearby. And take one guess at why that might be. And of course, they disappear on the first day, and it ruins all the time scheduling that Jane has been working on. And then someone comes in very late in her day, and the entire trip, what she spent her entire day organizing, was having him here in New York for a meeting, and then getting him on a plane and getting him out to LA for an opening of some variety, and how much work she had to do shifting everything around, and then calling and changing and calling and changing. And basically, he just ignores all of that. And I try my hardest not to do that. I try to respect people's schedules, especially when people are accommodating me in their schedule. And maybe that's not going to make me a very good Hollywood boss, but I'm actually completely fine with that. I would rather continue to be who I am as a boss, even if it means not being respected, I guess, by other people in my position. I'm okay with that. And I'm not going to do a spoiler section for this movie. Honestly, I don't know what would be a spoiler or not. So she realizes what the situation is with this girl and goes to HR, and then the HR person is super unhelpful, just like, honestly, most HR people that I know, and basically backs the company, even though HR is supposed to be helping employees. You're there for the employees. You're to argue on the employees' behalf to the company, not to back the company against employees. And it's very frustrating. HR is a whole frustrating thing for me. But nonetheless, she goes to HR, she regrets it, she pulls back from the whole thing, and we just see this very terrible day, which is probably one of many very terrible days that she has. And she is sacrificing this like I imagine a lot of assistants are in this industry. You do the assistant job so you can get moved up to another job at some point when you show that you have, good writing skills and you can go review scripts, or you really have an eye for directors and then you can get put into production, like anything to get out of that assistant job. And I know that that's why she's hanging on, and it's super frustrating to go along this movie with her and just want to see her potential and just be like, I want you to do something better, but there's nothing you can do. This is one day in a very long line of probably a couple years of really terrible days, and hopefully she'll advance and get out of this job and move on with her life. Honestly, it's a really terrible industry that I've chosen to be a part of. That's my takeaway from it. So I'm going to skip right to the end, right to my recommendation. I can tell you off the bat, this movie is not going to be for everyone. I've said in previous reviews, this is not an awards contender. That's not true with The Assistant. The Assistant is definitely an awards contender. It is a Hollywood movie about the worst part of Hollywood, and this industry just can't help itself. It is likely to nominate it no matter how good or how bad it was. That being said, it was a really great movie. It, however, is a very slow movie. We were watching it as a group, and I could basically just watch people check out as the movie went along because it's slow and methodical and plotting. And basically, the director, I think, is trying to just get you to feel like Jane feels. Like you're taking on these burdens that she has all the time, and you feel so weighed down by the end that you're not sad because you're not sad for her. You're just depressed. You're just like, I can't believe someone has to live like this. This is terrible. Ugh. And then it just ends. And there is not really a resolution. There's a little resolution to the things she's frustrated about, but not really. She's going to go home. It's late. She's got to get up really early and just do this again. And that is great, but it's missing the catharsis. And I know a lot of people really, really want a movie to be cathartic. They want to see the good guy win and the bad guy lose. There's got to be a shootout on a rooftop, and the good guy has to walk away, and the bad guy has to stay. That's how movies are supposed to end. They're supposed to make you feel good at the end. And this is not one of those. It holds up a mirror and says, hey, industry, we're doing a really terrible job. I listen religiously to the Script Notes podcast, and they have done a lot over the last year to try and improve the lives of assistants, like getting them better pay, getting them better hours, helping them organize together so that they can know what people are supposed to be making in this job, and not letting people not classify you as some sort of administrator and therefore not pay you. I'm going to call you something strange and give you a strange salary. No, you're doing the same work as this person. You should get the same pay. And I applaud John and Craig for that. I'm glad that they're doing that. And after seeing this movie, I even more want to fight for that. I've said before, I'm not in a position where I could just move to LA and make no money and share an apartment with 5 people. I'm a grown man. I came out here as a grown man, and I just cannot live that life. Some part of me wishes I could, but then after watching this movie, I'm almost glad that I didn't. So no, it's not for everybody. If you need to have that catharsis at the end of a movie, if you need to have that clear conclusion, if you need a movie to kind of be really well structured into first act, second half of the second act, third act, this is not the movie for you. This is a movie for probably people who want to work in the industry, and for people who are in the industry, and for people who like movies about the industry. It's the ugly side of all the beautiful things that we like to be distracted by. The people who help make this industry run, and how terrible we are to them, and how terrible their lives can be. But also a little bit of hope of why do they keep this up? Well, here's why too. But if you're down for a more artistic movie, for that slow, methodical movie, for movies that are going to have a chance of winning awards, because let me tell you, Julia Garner's performance in this was amazing. She did such a great job, and she had such range with her emotion, and we see her get excited, and we see her sad, and we see her disappointed in herself and disappointed in everyone else, and just frustration. She was a whole human being. Which is weird to say that that's good, but we got to see a whole range. She's very complex. She's torn about what she's doing, but at the same time, she does it because it's necessary. If you're down for that, you're going to love this movie. And honestly, I loved this movie. As frustrating as it was, I still really enjoyed it. But again, it's not going to be for everybody. So if that kind of movie is not for you, go ahead and skip it. You're going to be frustrated at the end of over 2 hours of movie when that's the ending I'm trying to warn you about in advance. And you're also not going to want to miss a minute of this. Generally, while I'm watching movies, I kind of try to do other stuff. I'm editing new episodes of the daily podcast that I'm doing, Rob Explains, or I'm working on a speech for the campaign. I'm running for president, Rob Cheek for Prez on social media, or I'm editing episodes of the Everyman Movie review, or I'm getting topics ready for my weekly podcast with my buddy Corey, Oh the Anthem. New episodes are available every Tuesday. But this movie, you cannot allow yourself to be distracted. You need to let yourself be enveloped into the world and start to take some of these burdens that Jane has. Take them on and feel the weight. And if you do that, I think you'll enjoy this movie as much as I did. But speaking of slow and methodical, I've been real slow and methodical with these episodes, right? 2 a week, every single week, every Thursday and 1 day in between. So make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when the next episode of the Everyman Movie Review is available. But until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everyone.